Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video, doing GWV Sunday Round-Up for today's second video. So as always on a Sunday, we've got your eclectic mix of this and that, looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, solar activity, Arctic oscillation, northern Atlantic oscillation, weather next week, 10 days and beyond, and starting with the QBO as well. So I shall get on with all of that for you very shortly. Just say that the first video released today was the 6th update for spring. So nearing the end of the spring updates now. I've got one more to do next week, and then we'll be releasing a spring forecast at the end of the month. So have a look at the 6th spring update if you'd like to do that. I'm going to be live streaming after 6 o'clock tonight, or from 6 o'clock tonight. And I think I'll show you a little bit of summer data perhaps in that live stream, as well as having a look at the 12Z too. Right, so busy old day. I better crack on with Sunday Roundup. Going to start off with the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation, just to bring you up to date with that. So we continue to be like stuck between the easterly and westerly phase of the QBO. We've got the so you think that this is like the top of the absolute up in the stratosphere, so it's kind of like 10 HPA there. 30 to 50 HPA is the troposphere, that's the boundary level of the atmosphere where weather is taking place. So the sandy colours like the westerly QBO, the blue-green colours the easterly phases of the quasi-biennial oscillation. Last time I had a proper easterly QBO phase, quite some time back now, 2017 to 2018, this blue-green period here, which will be disappearing off the chart before too much longer, actually. Then from 2018 through to 2019, we have the westerly QBO just here. We should have gone into the easterly phase of the QBO from 2019 to 2020, just here, but it failed. The westerly QBO continued in the troposphere, albeit very weakly, and then sort of re-strengthened through the troposphere through the second half of 2020 and into this winter. We are still in the westerly QBO in the troposphere, but we do have the easterly QBO in the stratosphere at the top of the atmosphere up here. We've got the easterly QBO lurking. We're waiting to see when this easterly QBO will descend down into the troposphere. There's no sign of it descending down to the troposphere yet, but I think it is having an effect, because this winter has been much more like an easterly QBO winter. So despite the fact we have got westerly QBO in the troposphere, it's not been behaving like a typical westerly QBO and strengthening the zone westwards. Have had quite a blocking signal, probably I would have thought caused by this easterly QBO lurking in the stratosphere. It may have helped to damp down the polar vortex and give us the blocking, or some of the blocking anyway, that we've had through this winter. But still no sign of the easterly QBO actually descending into the troposphere. It still remains up there in the stratosphere for the time being. We've got the number in for January's QBO, so this is from NOAA, of course. Let's just zoom in. So this is showing every month's worth of QBO numbers all the way back to 1950s, where we've got the negative numbers. That, of course, is the easterly QBO phase. So we've got the positive numbers. That's the westerly QBO phase. If we come down to 2020, 2021, you can see that we did start off 2020 going into the ECQBO, so January, February, March, April, we did see a slight strengthening of the easterly QBO, but then went into a summer and the ECQBO just sort of faded away. It sort of faded away and then reversed back into the westerly QBO through the second half of 2020, which is quite unusual, but it did happen as well in 2016. So December's QBO number came out at plus 11.37, very positive, as well as November and October's QBO numbers, all positive. Into 2021 down here, we've got January's number at plus 10.19, so another pretty positive month. As I say, we're waiting to see what happens for February, March, April, May, June, July, and so on. Will these months begin to reverse into the easterly phase of the QBO? We shall find out. We'll find out over the coming months. But at the moment, the QBO in the troposphere remains in quite a strong westerly phase, but in the stratosphere, nowhere near as strong, and we actually have the ECQBO in the stratosphere. So all very complicated, all very unusual, and the QBO continues sort of befuddle all of us with what it's going to do, but we'll find out together in the coming months. Right, this is how things are in terms of solar activity. So this is how the solar disk looks on outside of this day from solarham.net. Got a spotless solar disk. There are no visible sunspots on the solar disk on outside of this day. So therefore, solar activity is at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. This is GWV solar activity tracker updated by our good friend James Ackrill, keeper of Bean Solar Tracker. So the orange line is depicting each individual day's worth of sunspot activity. You can see, but through most of February, actually, we have not had any sunspots, really. We just had one just there. But we have, like in the last couple of weeks, gone into a quieter phase. We did get a big spike in activity back in November, but since then, we've been declining again. So that was like a false start, really, I think, to solar cycle 25. And overall, this is a very, very slow start to the solar cycle. We're now into the second year of solar cycle 25. We expect activity to be ticking up, but not yet, not yet. It looks like solar activity remains at very low levels. And the trend lines, have thick green and thick red lines, they continue to be at a really low level as well, just flatlining away. Not on the floor of the chart, but flatlining away and not really increasing much at all. So after the increase of the trends that we have through the end of 2020, we've definitely reduced activity again, haven't we? There's no two ways about that, but we're at a really low level of solar activity. This is from our good friend Richard Troll, so thank you so much, Richard. Oh, look, it's Gav Skywalker today. Thank you, Rich. Right, so this is showing spotless days and the current spotless stretch. So for 2021 so far, we have had I think that's 27 days without solar activity. That is 60% of the year. That is a high number, really, for like the second year of the solar cycle. So comparable to 2020, which had 208 days without sunspots. That was 57% of the entire calendar year. So the minimum year, of course, was 2019, which had 281 days without activity. That was 77% of the year. So yeah, solar activity continues to be at a low level. It's a slow start to solar cycle 25, and we shall see, won't we, when this solar cycle really starts to take off, or if it does, you know, maybe it's going to be slow throughout, but I think it will start taking off before too much longer. But definitely similar to solar cycle 24, it is a slow old slow old process to get the solar cycle going. It probably tells us this is going to be another pretty weak solar cycle, I think. This is how the oceans were looking. We did last week's GWV Sunday Round-Up. Got our 3 areas of interest, of course. Got the ENSO region just here. Got the Northern Pacific over there. Got the North Atlantic over here. So that's how the oceans were looking last week. Let's have a look at latest from NOAA. This is it then for 12th of February. So dealing with ENSO, first of all, the La Nina signal, if anything, it's strengthening a little bit. Really, so it's pretty cold. It is like a central western base La Nina with the coldest sea surface temperature is pushed out over there. But even in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, we are seeing, we have seen like a strengthening of those cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies, which is a little bit unusual because we come to the end of the ENSO season now, so we typically decide to go back towards ENSO neutral. But definitely, like over the week, we have seen strengthening of the La Nina signal here through the central and eastern part of the actual Pacific Ocean. It remains pretty strong over in the west, so La Nina is still in business, and if anything, is probably strengthening a little bit. In the northern Pacific, it remains a little bit cooler up here than it has been for a little while, so particularly this northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean again remains pretty cool up there, and last time we had that was in winter 2017-2018 So that was a cooler winter as well for northern Europe. So yeah, it has cooled down in the northeastern Pacific. In the North Atlantic, remains significantly warmer than average, really through most areas, but tropics still pretty warm. Gulf of Mexico still pretty warm. All of these regions, of course, if they stay warm into the summer, we can expect yet another big hurricane season, but it's early days on that. We've got to sustain these above average sea surface temperatures for another 6 months or so. And in the North Atlantic, it's pretty warm as well, up towards Greenland. So really all areas of the Atlantic Ocean are a little bit are warmer than average. So it's warm up here, maybe a little bit cooler through there, and then warm down there. So maybe we do have a slight tripole signal, but yeah, pretty warm in the Atlantic, cooler, of course, due to La Nina in large parts of the northern Pacific, or in large parts of the Pacific. This is how the Southern Oscillation Index is looking from the Bureau of Meteorology. So SOI, of course, is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. It's not driving anything in its own terms, just tells us what the atmosphere is doing. When the SOI is in its positive phase, then the atmosphere will be reflective of La Nina in the South Pacific. And when the SOI is in negative phase, the atmosphere will be reflective of El Nino. So it's measuring air pressures between Darwin and Tahiti. Really had a very positive SOI along with the strong La Nina signal in the ocean. The atmosphere is also coupled up to it. Actually, the SOI 30-day average has reduced from like plus 19 in the middle of January to where it is now, which is around plus 13. So it's still very positive, and that's the 30-day average, but the 90-day average is actually still increasing a little bit. Both 30-day and 90-day averages are still really positive. Our overall SOI numbers are coming out like this. So it's only a few days ago it had some strongly positive numbers. Actually, so the 8th of February was at plus 28.44, the 9th of February was at plus 30.93, that's really positive. The 10th of February was at plus 20.03, and so it goes. 14th of February, of course, they're a bit ahead of us in Australia, is at plus 5.00, so not quite as positive for like 13th and 14th of February, but nevertheless, that's just like day-to-day variation, day-to-day fluctuations. Overall, the SOI remains in its positive phase. La Nina goes on. CFSV2 is forecasting La Nina to continue as well. So the temperature is on the side, dates on the bottom of charts in monthly period, or bottom of the chart in monthly period. So you can see that at the moment we're around neutral to weekly negative, weekly La Nina. 0.5 degrees is your important number. For La Nina, it has to be like half degree below average. For El Nino, it has to be half degree or more above average. So we're just on the cusp, really, in the central part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, anyway. For La Nina, coming up from like a weak to moderate La Nina that we had during the autumn into winter. But the CFSV2 ensemble pulling is actually forecast La Nina to strengthen again through to the summer. So you see how the black dashed line is sort of falling away here again as we go from the spring into the summer, showing that by sort of summer into autumn we're back into weak to moderate La Nina territory once again, which is a little bit unusual, but you can get 2-year ENSO events. Sometimes you get a 2-year El Nino, sometimes you get a 2-year La Nina. That's what CFSV2 forecasting at the moment. We'll know more when we get past the spring predictability barrier. But CFS was very good with its La Nina prediction last year. This time last year, CFS was forecasting that we would, develop into a La Nina through the summer and autumn of 2020. It came off. Did overdo the strength of the La Nina a little bit, but the overall signal from CFS was very good. So I think we take this seriously. We could well see La Nina, being a 2-year event this time and getting stronger as we go on into the summer. It'll be interesting how that pans out, won't it? This is how Eurasian snow cover is looking. I said we'd have a look at this again this week, so it has been big increases in Eurasian snow cover as expected across Europe, during the past week. So we've pushed the snow line right away from Russia all the way to Germany. We've got plenty of snow also into France as well. You can see the UK standing out, particularly eastern parts of Britain with some snow cover as well. All of Northern Europe is snow cover, of course. Scandinavia is snow cover the whole of Russia is snow covered, as you would expect. And this snow cover does extend down some parts of southeastern Europe as well. Plenty of Arctic sea ice, so that's the yellow area just here, although we are a little bit down for Arctic sea ice. We're getting a lot of refreshing going on with the tabs, so I'm going to pause the video there. I think I'll refresh the tabs, and then we'll have a look at Arctic sea ice and bring you the rest of the Sunday round. But I'll just get the tabs refreshed for you, and then we won't need to worry about that as we're going through them. There we go, we're back. Tabs nicely refreshed. Right, let's have a look at Arctic sea ice. I haven't shown you this for some time. We are reaching the peak of the season for, you know, the freeze of Arctic sea ice. A little bit on the low side, though. So the blue line is where we are for 2021. You can see that this is from, who's this from? Let's just have a quick look, see who this is from. It's from National Snow and Ice Data Center. Yeah, it would help if I know what website to use, wouldn't it? So that's the blue line, like this year, 2021. You can see that is under the trends. The trend, like the thick grey line, is a 30-year 81 2010 average. So yeah, we're under average, but nearing the peak of the refreeze season. And then, of course, as we go through the summer and into the early part of the autumn, that's when we will get to the low point for Arctic sea ice, when we will melt a lot of that Arctic sea ice. So we'll see what sort of season, you know, what sort of melt season we get a little bit later on. Just because we are under average for Arctic sea ice at the moment does not necessarily mean, but we'll see a big melt season. But we have had a lot of big melt seasons over the past few years, so it probably will be another pretty big melt season. We are on a par with 2012, which was the record minimum year. That's the red dashed line just there. If we put in some more recent years, that is 2020. So we're quite close, actually, to 2020. That's 2019. We're quite close to that one as well. That's 2018. We're above 2018 also. That's 2017. That's 2016, that's 2015. So, you know, we're on a par with a lot of recent years, and we are above some years as well. So we're not doing too badly, I don't suppose. But we are a bit below the long-term sort of 30-year average. Right, so looking at the Arctic oscillation, we see how the AO observed and forecast chart is looking. So again, as with all of these indexes, SOI, QBO, they're all just indexes sort of reflecting the atmospheric state. They don't drive anything in their own terms. This one is looking at air pressures in the Arctic. So when we've got a positive AO, we've got low pressure over the Arctic. And when we've got a negative AO, we've got high pressure, got blocking over the Arctic. Through this winter, the AO has been in a negative or a very negative phase, virtually from the very start of the winter all the way up to where we are now, which is really negative. So we have had a lot of blocking through this winter. However, big changes on the way. Look at this, a red dash line, GFS ensembles, showing that the AO is going to go positive in a few days' time. Real sort of lift up from very strongly negative to slightly positive. That'll be the first time I've had a positive AO since the end of November. Can you believe? The GFS ensembles are then keeping the AO positive for around a week or so, but possibly by the end of February, hinting that the AO will begin to trend back negative again. So it might only be a brief period of positivity of the AO, and then by the end of February, we might be starting to see northern blocking signals re-emerging. Once more, we could be starting to see blocking signals re-emerging by the end of Feb. The LAO is very similar, so black line again, showing where we've been with the LAO, red lines at the end, where GFS ensembles forecasting LAO to go. For most of this winter, the LAO has been in a weekly negative phase as well, so it does explain, you know, you look at the indexes, you can see why have had a cold winter, not just the UK, but for much of Northern Europe and the North Atlantic. Current position of the NEO is there, so again neutral to weekly negative. GFS ensembles are forecasting NEO to go neutral to weekly positive in the next couple of weeks. So both indexes are going into positive territory. This is a sign for milder weather and a return of the westerlies. So yeah, we are going to get some milder conditions and a return of westerly winds for a while anyway, during the second half of February. Whether that carries on into March, though, of course, remains to be seen. Right, let's do some forecasts for you then. So changes today. We're introducing milder air from the Atlantic. Cold spell is drawing to a close, and as I say, we're returning to westerly winds, losing quite a lot of the northern blocking. However, we have got a few problems today in that we've got showery rain moving in from west. It's very sporadic, but showery rain coming in from the west, but it is still pretty cold, actually, in many places. So the dew points are still widely below freezing away from the far west and southwest. And so as this precipitation pushes across the country with the ground frozen, so when the dew points are below freezing, then the ground will be, at or below freezing. So as the precipitation pushes across the country, there is the chance of some freezing rain. I think it's most likely to be through central and northern areas, but I wouldn't totally rule out a chance of a little bit of freezing rain even down in the south. See, for example, here towards the south coast, temperatures around -1. Looks like there's precipitation moving through. So even down in the south, there could be a little bit of freezing rain day, but I think the worst of it will be in the north. And freezing rain can be very, very dangerous. It can produce severe ice sheets on all surfaces if it's cold enough. And those dew points definitely look cold enough. So if you're off out and about today, just watch out for the chance of either some snow. You could get some snow with this, again, most likely for Scotland, or freezing rain for a while anyway. But you can see it in the west, the dew points have gone above freezing, so the milder temperatures are pushing in. And by the end of the day and into tonight, we shouldn't have to worry too much about freezing rain and ice, but it is a bit of a concern for the next few hours. Right, so this is how the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking for the next couple of weeks. The red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average. We're starting off milder than average at the moment, of course, in terms of the upper air temperature. So that's the reason we've got more concerned about freezing rain than snow, by the way. So when the upper air temperature is above 0 degrees, it cannot snow, even if the dew point, even if the surface is like freezing. If the upper air temperature is above 0 degrees, it will only rain. But of course, if it's freezing on the surface, that rain will freeze. So that's why we're a little bit concerned about freezing rain today. So the upper air temperatures are now milder than average and will be staying so for the next few days. Got a little bit of a dip in the upper air temperatures coming up there later on this week. But then they take off through the weekend and into next week, becoming very mild from around the 19th to, let's say, the 25th of February. A very mild period coming up, maybe a little bit of a taste of spring. Going to the last days of February, though, that's this period just here, we have got a cooling trend, and several of the GFS ensemble members are going cold or very cold for the very end of the month and into the beginning of March. I've got one more big, cold plunge to come this winter. We will find out, won't we? But there are several now that are going really cold into the last days of February. It does include today's GFS midnight operational run as well. More about that in a moment. As it's going milder, it is also going to be unsettled as well, so plenty of rain to come over next week. As we go into the last week of February, last days of February, there is a little bit of a drying trend then. Temperature anomalies from the 14th, 22nd of February, going to be milder than average through the UK and most parts of Western Europe as well. The cold temperature anomalies are being pushed back into the far east and southeast of Europe. Precipitation anomalies from the 14th, 22nd of February going to be above average, so a milder, wetter week coming up. Here's the latest wind flow map from earthnullschool.net, showing that winds have turned into the south, but still coming off the continent, you see, still drawing wind up off the continent, so that's the reason. But for the time being, for the next few hours, it remains cold. But the Atlantic-based southerly southwesterlies are moving. It's a slow process, but by the end of today, those Atlantic-based winds will be flooding the country. By tomorrow, we will all be thawing out. Here's how the UK Met is looking for Wednesday. Low pressure coming off the Atlantic, bringing outbreaks of rain through the second half of the week. Also dragging up very mild southwesterly winds as well. So we're into a milder, wetter phase with UK Met and all model output for the coming week and into next weekend. Here's how the GFS midnight run is looking. This is going to go cold at the end. More about that in a moment. But starting off on Wednesday, looking pretty mild, wet and windy really through the rest of this week. Drawing up a very mild southwesterly as we go into next weekend, and that will lift temperatures probably to mid-teens Celsius across southern and southeastern parts of the country. Wow, it will be a little bit cooler though up in the north, some outbreaks of rain. Through to next week, or through to the following week, I suppose, high pressure wind starts to build up from the south. Still looking very mild with this, particularly so for northern and western areas. Down in the southeast, close to this ridge, it might be a bit cooler there with some frost and fog, but even so, by day, I imagine it will be very pleasant. This gets us to day 10, Wednesday, 24th of February. Now, in the closing days of February, the GFS midnight run then pushes this low pressure through, raises the heights to our north and west again, and here we go. We're back into cold northerly winds once again for the closing days of the month. So back to cold weather, more snow coming into the north and the east, particularly as the wind turns into that east to northeasterly direction. And this is quite a bitter sort of east-northeasterly as well. So we're pushing the -5, so as I go right the way through the country there as we go into closing days of February. And that's how we look as we get through to the 2nd of March. So by then, just begin to ease the temperatures back up a little bit. But it will still be cold. We're toppling in a ridge of high pressure there. So it will still be quite cold as we go into the opening days of March. But the coldest period is like the closing days of February. That's how the 6Z is looking. 6Z has been updated as we've been speaking, of course. So at day 10, again, we're looking at high pressure over to the east of the country, mainly dry and potentially pretty mild as well. What does the 6Z then do? Let's have a look. So this is how things look as we go through the 25th February. It looks like it's raising the heights out to the north and west again, sending low pressure southwards. So this is hinting again, I think, that like the closing days of February might start to go colder. Yeah, we're raising heights around Greenland and Iceland again. Not cold up to this point, but certainly threatening to pull back or pull in northerly winds. That's how it looks as we get to 27th of February. Again, you see high pressure towards Greenland, Iceland, low pressure going to be cut off towards Spain. We're possibly going to have a go at pulling the wind into the east. So, yeah, the GFS today is definitely playing around with the idea that things will get colder again and northern blocking comes back as we come to the end of February. That's Saturday. That's yesterday's GFS 6Z. It's a little bit late finishing. But, you know, definitely the idea is there today with GFS in its extended range that it could go cold again by month's end. GEM looks like this, so mild, wet and windy through the course of the coming week and then into weekend. We drag up these very mild southwesterlies. Will be a little bit of a taste of spring, I think, over the weekend. And that's how it looks as we get to day 10. High pressure is in control, centered over Germany, drawing up a southerly wind. That would be very hot if it was summer, wouldn't it? If that would be a classic summer chart. Bringing like a heat wave to much of Western Europe. It's only February, so not going to be that warm. But even so, I think mid-teens Celsius is achievable there, unless we get some dense fog, of course, and that could limit temperature potential. ECM, again, rounding it all off, looking quite mild, wet and windy through the course of this week. Over weekend, turns drier away from the northwest, and we drag up these very mild southerly winds, which will probably lift the temperature into mid-teens Celsius, ending up with the ECM back into rather unsettled conditions once again. This is how the precipitation type forecast is looking with that ECM run from Tavetio.com. So plenty of rain coming and going over the next few days. Will be cold enough at times, some snow across northern Scotland, but otherwise we're talking primarily about rain. And as we get to the weekend in particular, we'll turn dry away from the far northwest and will turn potentially very mild as well. Back into more unsettled conditions again by day 10. These options are on the table for the ECM ensembles today for day 10 will get us to the 24th of February. 15 members of the ECM ensembles have low pressure to our west, and we'll have high pressure to the east. We'll be drawing up a very mild southerly wind, and that does include the operational run as well, by the way. 15, or another 15, again, high pressure to our east, southeast, low pressure to our west. Again, we're drawing up mild southerly southwesterlies with that one. 14 have high pressure, just a little bit more centered over the country. That's going to be a drier option, but we also have a wind coming in from the south, so it should be pretty mild. And 7 just here, again, high pressure over to the east of the country, should be drawing up mild southerly winds with that one. So all options now looking mild for the 24th of February at day 10. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This will get us to the 1st of March. We have 22 members of the ENSO and SOI, then with high pressure over country, going to be mainly dry. And as the high pressure is centrally located over country, could be a little bit cooler. 17 taking the high pressure up towards Iceland and perhaps bringing the wind in from the east. That could be turning colder. And then 12 just here, having blocking from Greenland to Norway. They'll be bringing proper easterly winds. So by the beginning of March, we could be back into cold east or northeasterlies again. Just a little bit of a taster of spring, and then perhaps back into cold weather by the end of the month. CMSV2, lastly, these are 500 millibar height spring down to week periods. The first week period takes from the 14th, 20th of February. The coming week have low pressure to the west combined with high pressure to the east. We'll be drawing up a mild southerly southwesterly wind. So a big push up in temperature in the week ahead. Week 2 is going to be the 21st to the 27th of February with high pressure over top of the coast. That can be drier. And as the high pressure builds over the country, it may start to turn colder under that ridge. From frost and fog anyway, but by day probably still quite pleasant. Then the high pressure goes north and northwest into week 3, 28th of February to 6th of March. You take high pressure back up towards Greenland, Iceland, probably pulling a cold east or northeasterly wind again there. So we'll see if there's also wants to get things colder by the beginning of March. And week 4, which is going to be the 7th to the 13th of March, high pressure then centred around Scotland. Winds probably coming in from the east. Should be mostly dry, but again, could be rather cold actually. This is how March overall is looking. Lastly, with CFSV2, with 700 millibar high anomaly today, taking the high pressure towards Greenland and possibly threatened to bring in some cold northern winds. However, really cold areas with this trough over here across northeastern parts of Europe and into western Russia. But it could be a rather chilly month if that comes up. Temperature anomalies for March, no signal you see, but it's coldest over sort of eastern parts of Europe just here. We have no signal, but I think it probably would be a relatively chilly month anyway, based on that 700 millibar height anomaly. And no signal for precipitation, but I would have thought a largely drier than average month would be expected. All speculative though, of course. Right, if you enjoyed this sunny roundup, please smash the like button. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. You'll be able to see future weather content. Don't forget to tell your friends, family, everybody else to subscribe. We're on the grind to 11k subs. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, that's it for the sunny roundup then for this week. We're going to be back later on with our live stream from 6 o'clock. And I think with that one, as well as the 12 said, I'm going to show you a little bit of summer data, I think. Have a look at the CFSV2, maybe the Beijing Climate Centre as well. And yeah, that'll be from 6 o'clock. So I shall see you live at 6 for the sunny roundup. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.